Hello and welcome once again. This is Gerald Glassford. Welcome to the show. It's Game Source podcast number 152. And if you're listening as well, this will be also Pop Culture Cosmos. I'm Gerald from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. Want to let you know out there that the Game Source podcast is now available on Google Play, podcast.com, and iTunes. And of course, its sister podcast, which we just got recently the rankings in for. We truly appreciate Podcast Radio Network for allowing us to be a part of it, because the rankings just came in and we're in the top 15 already in our first month. I want to thank you, the listeners out there. We truly appreciate it. The Pop Culture Cosmos show can be listened to every Monday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. If you miss it there, and shame on you if you do, but it's okay. You can still listen to it on our RSS feed on the Tangent Bound Network. Want to welcome them as far as to one of our affiliates now. Want to appreciate them for giving them some love as far as, allowing us to be on their station. And then also as well, we've got Stitcher we just added. We're so thankful to them as well. Google Play, iTunes, podcast.com, and also our home site, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com. So I want to talk today some esports. Esports is, in the past, I'd want to say 5 years, esports has really blossomed and grown to be something that's gone worldwide as far as the interest, as far as the name value, as far as something that a lot of people have wanted to latch onto. And one of the people I wanted to talk to today the person I'm going to talk to today is Cristian Zamudio. He's here today with us, and he is, the man to talk to here in the Las Vegas area regarding esports. How are you today, Cristian?
Oh, doing really well. Excellent, actually.
So being our esports resource, if I could say that correctly, the esports resource, I wanted to ask you, as far as is concerned, maybe a little bit of background on esports, and then also we'll delve into the esports of today and now, and then going forward, because esports is something that, like I said earlier, has come onto the scene. It's come on like gangbusters, and a lot of people maybe are not as familiar with it. Maybe they're a little bit intimidated by it. Tell us a little bit more about the evolution of esports.
All right, so esports, basically, the name itself, it's considered as electronic sports. So what it is, it's professional video gaming. It's not like it's literally sitting on a couch and playing like ranked matches. It's more than that. Like, there's actual competitions. There's usually there's money on the line, sponsorships entail with that. It really has, and you're right, Gerald. So it has blown up over the past 5 years. It's been on a steady increase for since, I would say, maybe the early 90s and above.
There was when I was around, there was I was really heavily into as far as multiplayers are concerned with Doom that came out,
Yep.
Doom 2. There were some competitive issues, things of that nature, and then I know Rob McCallum would always go back to the blockbuster video world championships and whatnot.
Yep.
I guess you could consider that the infancy of esports. But with Halo 2, I think really became a little bit more organized, a little bit more event oriented as far as it's concerned. But what are your thoughts as far as how it evolved into what it is today?
All right, so a lot of people, professionally, like casters and owners, they consider a few games in a few areas that really dawned esports. One of which was Counter-Strike, the original Counter-Strike as being one of those, especially the European circuits. The second one is the holy, some people consider the holy grail or holy mecca of gaming to be South Korea and their StarCraft scene. That's been televised for ages now.
Well, I think that's where really it transformed itself out of, let's say, the small little TV studios and the small little performances that esports was even during the early 2000s.
That's right.
The first words of South Korean, arenas filling up with 10, 15,000 people, all mesmerized by this, and how esport, you hear stories about how esports athletes in that country were being treated like kings and like royalty.
Exactly.
That's where, to me, it really started to take off as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. You had people like Boxer and then Marine King. Like they're really good at StarCraft. They were treated like celebrities. I believe there was I forget who it was, but yeah, there was even one person who ran like uh for like I believe it was for their own Congress there, just based off of his fame and notoriety alone. So I mean,
Similar to what
that big.
Manny Pacquiao's done with
Yeah,
the Philippines and whatnot. So,
exactly.
but it's been crazy how that developed there and how it's progressed worldwide. In some areas, though, there's still a lot of room to develop, but you
Right.
see some promise with the industry as whole. How is Twitch and YouTube basically maybe outside of what South Korea did? How has that ignited as far as maybe a more expansive and worldwide front for esports?
Well, I'm gonna separate this into like two different segments. I'm gonna actually start with YouTube because that's where you've seen a few of the console esports games kind of transpire and become a little bit more popular. So I'll start with that. With YouTube, the popularity really started with Call of Duty. Not just started, it expanded with Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 2, Call of Duty 4 Pro mod on PC. Like those particular two sets of games really exploded the scene with especially with personalities that have come out in that console scene, such as Nate Shot, All of Optic Gaming, like some organizations like Envious kind of got big because of that scene. So it was viewer count. This is I want to say right before the monetization phase even started. So it just really just began with you know people uploading sick plays of like throwing knives across the map and like landing hits, and then it just escalated until the point that uh, you know that a lot of these teams that are currently in the scene, you know, they now have that money in order to support pro teams and to build their brand. So there's that part with YouTube. On the other end with Twitch, it started off as Justin TV, so they were like a variety. It was like a variety, streaming service. But then Twitch just, garnered on the gaming aspect specifically. There were so many people gaming socially. I believe Snoop Dogg at its infancy, like he started streaming there. Nowadays, you have all sorts of different leagues, streaming and showcasing such talent nowadays for League of Legends, Call of Duty, CS:GO. I mean, among other games. You also have like a lot of personalities and streamers who really carry forward that sort of outgoing, that entertainment value that kind of help out as far as keeping the numbers up. There is a little bit of correlation between the two with certain streamers and certain pro players providing content, but like yeah, as far as gaming goes, Twitch is just like if you want to see a live tournament go down like this weekend, here's the link, boom, you have instant access.
One thing I do want to ask you,
Yeah,
as far as the investment part, you're talking about a lot of, there's now a lot of money, a great deal of money. The international, I think, is
of
probably the
course.
most prominent one where they throw around a ton of cash.
Yeah,
Um,
and
I
it's all
want to talk about,
crowdfunded.
yeah, see, that's what I want to talk about as far as the major corporations, the major businesses, the major movie stars, athletes, and even athletic teams like two NBA teams in the past 2 weeks have actually invested
Yep.
and purchased esports teams. Tell me as far as how that really got involved, how that got started, and why are so many different outside forces that would normally not pay attention. You and I both know would normally never not
Yeah.
pay a second of esports now or all gaga. over esports.
Yeah, so like in other words, yeah. So in other words, like why would Shaq invest in
Why would the Philadelphia
CS:GO and
76ers
exactly
buy into a team?
Team
Why would the Golden
Dignitas
State
and
Warriors? Yeah, so tell me about why. What is their interest to gain, and why is everybody jumping on the esports bandwagon all of a sudden?
all right, so esports, as I don't know if everyone knows this, but it's a really big industry. It's actually, what is it now, like $1 billion industry now? That's yes. So that's one thing that's mainly contributing to it is that there's such a untapped market out there for the ages of 18 through 32 that you could like the investors are now seeing like, oh my gosh, now I can tap into this audience, provide product,
And I think one of the reasons
jerseys
why
and all
you
of
just
that
said
too.
it was 18 to 32.
Yes, because it's very hard normally to cater to that market, but now you're seeing companies and actual like investors go into that. So, for example, there is. I want to just kind of go off tangent real quick.
Of course.
There's Bud Light. They have their all stars. There's among others, it's Filipino champ from the fighting game scene, Ninja from Halo, and then Amaz. So among others,
But
so
it's a
like
huge investment by these corporations.
it is.
And what are they looking? They're looking to get out of so that people will follow their esports stars, and then just like traditional athletes, that they'll go
Yes,
ahead and support whatever sponsors that they have. Sort of like, it reminds me a little bit of when NASCAR,
exactly.
which got out of the realm of the southern aspect when people just thought it was just this based out of the southern area of the country, and that's all it was, and it was at this level. Then it blew up in the late 90s and early 2000s and became something as far as really just something that TV latched onto, and along with that the corporate world took notice, and something that was sponsored before by a lot of companies really just took even more so from there. Is that something similar to what's happened here with esports?
It is somewhat like you can kind of compare like even athletes to certain NASCAR drivers. So like Jeff Gordon, during his rookie year, you'd be compared to someone of, let's say, you know I wouldn't say Faker from League of Legends, but he's like Bjergsen. So from Team Solo Mid, he's that kind of caliber, among the best. Um, you know, just comparisons as far as like drivers go.
Yes, and then also UFC. I know that one has been thrown
Yeah,
out on more than one occasion, where the comparisons to
definitely.
UFC as far as a huge rise in a short period of time between esports and UFC. A lot of people see parallels there. I also see, for instance, like when poker blew up in the earlier part of the
Definitely.
century as well, due to ESPN just falling in love with it, and then everybody on the tour seemed to go corporate crazy with whatever poker website they could attach themselves onto.
Yeah.
So it's funny how that works. But speaking of ESPN, I did want to bring up as far as the North American aspect of it.
Right.
And while not dissing any part of the European or Asian market as far as is concerned, there's been, I don't want to say it's a mixed reaction, but but I do want to say it's maybe a reaction that's not yet reached at a level where we can call esports comfortably something that's a household name.
Right.
I know that Arena still sells out. I believe the Barclays Center just sold out for a tournament there for a weekend. We know the International, I believe it's at the Key Arena, they sell out.
Right.
Here in Vegas, T-Mobile Arena, that's no problem. Staples Center, no problem. House shows, and I hate to use, and I did use the pro wrestling vernacular, but the house
Yeah.
shows seem to have no problem getting fans. But when it comes to video, as far as it's concerned, outside of the Twitch and YouTube realm, there seems to be kind of a mixed bag as far as effectiveness overall, even though there's so many new entities wanting to jump into the TV scene. Want to mention the TBS that dipped their toe in the water. Of course, ESPN
Yeah.
has as well. Tell me about your thoughts on how well they've done with it. Have they presented the esports in a fair and accurate way? And what do you see for the future as far as esports on entertainment networks here in North America?
Okay, so I'm gonna focus on fighting games mainly on this portion because that's where I actually have like all these statistics like ready to go with that portion. So I want to actually talk about the Evolution Championship Series, otherwise known as Evo. So this year they have their broadcasts on ESPN2 of all channels, which is like really good. They had about half a million or not half, yeah, about half a million concurrent viewers the broadcast of Evo this year for Street Fighter Five. That was the mind you, this was the only game that was streamed. So Mandalay, there was hosted at Mandalay Bay Event Center that got sold out. Uh, I was actually in attendance watching the whole thing, so I was really excited to just see all those matches for different games. More importantly, though, how well it was handled is the fact that as far as broadcasting, ESPN let like all of the Evo production crew handle their own stream. I feel that you know as far as grassroots events go, that is like the most perfect thing you can do in order to facilitate, you know, like esports and games such as that. Just keeping the format as fluid as possible and almost the same as possible as what's on Twitch or on YouTube. So that's one thing that went great. Uh, there are a few like areas of opportunity. So for example, maybe it's just the marketing portion. Not a lot of people know how to market certain games the correct manner, and not to mention there's also a stigma, and especially in North America, that games are just they're just games. They're very like casual in that sort of way, and I feel that is still something that until we see esports games still frolic 20 years from now, that it's gonna take some time to really develop the whole like the whole competitive gaming and professional gaming as a whole.
Because I know when TBS
Yeah.
promoted TBS, am to be fair,
Yeah.
they did present a lot of commercials. They did promote it, but
With E-League. Yep.
yes, but I saw that their overall results rating wise was maybe like I said before, a mixed bag,
Right.
as far as for them committing long term to esports. So I don't know. That's kind of up in the air how they want to deal with it. But I just, as far as trying to relate it to the average consumer and not just the hardcore fan, do you think there's some things that can be done, can be adapted to make it more acceptable and more approachable to the average fan? Because I first think it will take some iconic announcer that can relate the action going on in maybe a fashion that's more comfortable. I don't want to say, because sometimes when I watch esports and I see that, I can see that there are people that are they're kind of getting blown away because just the quickness and speed that's communicated by some of the announcers that are currently a major part of the scene.
Right.
I think maybe if they can get a latch onto maybe an announcer that can translate the stories and translate the drama that's going on, maybe in a more prophetic fashion to an audience, to a larger audience, that will get even a larger audience, casual audience, to approach it more respectfully. Your thoughts on that, or someone who's very familiar with the scene even more than I am, is that something that you may want to see changed, or how would you approach it to better build it towards a casual audience?
All right. So I'm gonna answer this in two parts. Like first thing is like as far as like certain casters that are actually doing a really great job, you know, there's one caster in particular that's specific to League of Legends. His name's Monte Cristo. He's owned an esports team. It's, Renegades. He had that whole scandal, but regardless of him as a team owner, as a caster, he's excellent. Like he provides decent enough analysis, and he's able to kind of simplify it in a way that's not it's easy to consume, and he articulates the manner that he presents it presents all sorts of critiques and play-by-plays. Like we need more people like that are able to simplify what's going on, are able to inform the audience that might be new to said games, and then from there, you can have someone who could go like a lot more in depth, who's a lot faster at speaking these play-by-plays, because there was like, I suppose there is still a problem in Dota where a lot of the announcers, the joke is like they go full rap god mode, and they start like just literally just, I don't understand. Like sometimes it is like really too fast to comprehend.
Oh,
But
that's what exactly what I'm talking
yeah,
about. Anybody who's a casual audience member that's just
yeah,
flipping the channels, I can see them just getting their mind blown,
yeah.
within the first 5 minutes and saying, "What is this on my TV?" And I don't get it. And instead of maybe getting someone that's approachable, I mean, again, I'll use a wrestling announcer because used an answer that was Monte Cristo that's able to simplify it. I mean, if there is ever if he's the probably closest thing to Jim Ross in professional wrestling that
Yeah.
can translate the action but still communicate the stories and the individuals that are creating these stories, that maybe esports can go into an even higher realm than it has before.
And that's correct. Like there's another set of casters too that are able to do to do the game's justice, and you know what? And that's within the fighting game community too. There's such a variety of casters. Some of them, they like that play plays. Others, like especially in this scene, they like to actually go with like really interesting color commentary that's relatable to everyone else. I don't know if if you watched a few games of Marvel versus Capcom 3, that that particular scene, like it's these moments get so hype, and like I feel myself getting into it every time I watch any major. So that's one thing, like I feel certain communities are getting right, others aren't, but like the gist of it is, in order to actually get there, we do need like more Jim Rosses that are able to translate and simplify these things more. But yeah, like that's pretty much it on that.
And because he has that gift, or he has that gift. I mean, he's still announcing today in some form or
Yeah,
fashion, but that he's able to translate the story to a broad audience, but still is able to go ahead and connect and do enough to connect to that hardcore audience, so that the hardcore audience will not feel slighted in any way. And I know
exactly.
with the corporate pressure from all these companies and corporations that own either invitationals, leagues, or teams, that eventually they will want to broaden the audience out even more, which may alienate some within the esports community or fan community, because that always seems to happen as you grow bigger. You have a tendency to stray away from what some people, hardcore individuals, like best. So I think there's that fear, from what I'm seeing and reading online, in regards to the esports community as it grows. They want the community to grow. They want the sport to grow. They want the whole genre to grow, but they're worried about exactly what effects may come of it. Your thoughts?
My thoughts. I actually have like a lot to talk about it in regards to this discussion. I'm actually going to talk about like the fighting game community again in this regard, because there was a problem a few years ago where there was as esports is growing, there was this problem of the Capcom Pro Tour is catered to mainly Street Fighter, and then you have a lot of grassroots events on the other side that hold their own tournaments, linear to set events. Currently, some Capcom Pro Tour events are actually hosted at certain venues like that. The thing that started happening is though, a few years ago when MLG tried to kind of tip their toes into the scene, there were a few events that were hosted during the same weekend as certain grassroots events. That problem, I want to say, like it didn't really tear the community apart, but it really showed where a lot of the values of the hardcore players relied on. Like, as you probably already know, MLG didn't really host any more fighting game tournaments after, I want to say, like 2012 or 2013.
Something
So,
like that. Yeah, I remember
yeah,
that.
yeah, it was pretty crazy. Like there was tournaments for like Tekken Tag Tournament 2 and King of Fighters that were only like maybe 8 to 16 players, and they were all like really good players. So yeah, that sort of problem is really like something that the community has to figure out. There needs to be sort of like balance between the two events. One thing, there are a lot of like people that might actually get flack on regards to the Capcom and their Pro Tour, but I feel like that's the one thing that kind of got correctly or correct rather
Mhm.
in that subject. Let's see. I know there's a little bit more to this that I want to talk about too. One of these things is like developer support, right? Exactly what I'm referring to with Capcom. Microsoft with Killer Instinct, which is like one of the games that I'm actually playing like trying to play professionally right now, is uh, they've been providing for their for that scene for a few years already. As the game kind of grows and finishes, the game has finished. It's almost finished its third season, and there's this big Killer Instinct World Cup that's coming up in March 2017. I feel you know that's one side where a company or a developer and its parent company can actually like coexist with its grassroots side in order to provide support. I feel that's actually like one of those successes. As far as failures go, I mean, you can see like you can kind of see like where Capcom kind of made their missteps. You can kind of see where MLG kind of decided not to not to host tournaments for fighting games anymore. Kind of to see that comparison, but yeah.
Because MLG, like I said, at once really, as you said, and as you indicated, really tried to make a footprint within the esports community. But basically, a lot of factors stemming internally with them from what I was
Yep.
reading and investigating, and then also externally, how they appeared to the esports community really was their own undoing. And that's something I want to touch on. A couple more quick questions. Um, we talked about, as far as some of the bad points so far that have happened to esports, but, when you have a growing and, burgeoning genre, such as the esports phenomenon come on, you really want to try and make sure that you have as minimal points as possible for bad news and bad press and bad PR.
Exactly.
But already there's been issues of scandal, points of contention, and problems relating to teams, leagues, as we mentioned earlier, organizations, and also players doing things in order that maybe not be on the up and up in order to try and get a leg ahead, which is, competition, unfortunately, in today's 2016 and in all realms of sports.
Right.
So, mentioning some of that, and I know you're probably going to get into that. Exactly, what are some of those factors, and how do you see them possibly, if they get any worse, being something that could prevent esports from growing naturally?
All right. So with those said problems, I mean, one thing I can tell you right away is like the use of using programs to kind of alter your performance. Uh,
Ritalin has been talked about.
yeah. So like doping, yeah, with Ritalin or using like actual programs to cheat. That's been a problem in CS:GO for some time. With that, I know there's a few leagues that have actually done their part to start doing random drug testing. I believe it. I'm trying to remember if it was. Oh yeah, so it was like I had one of the IEMs, one of the League of Legends players got tested. He came out clean. He came out fine. But there's those sorts of things that are helping to grow esports naturally. But as far as what needs to be done, I might be wrong in saying this, but there might need to be like an actual like assembly of or some sort of
Some
someone to do checks and balances with players in regards to that.
unionization or league that now body that's going to be able to actually take care of all that. Correct?
Yes, exactly. Because you
Uh,
see that in all sports. There's
yes. Yeah, no, absolutely. You're correct, 100%. And I couldn't agree with you more on that. And I think if it wants to go where it wants to go, it's going to have to do that because of, I know esports is even was talked about around the time of Olympics as saying,
right.
esports trying to maybe be a possibility down the road, which, some may scoff at, some may laugh at, but some were really behind it. So,
Yeah,
over the possibility of maybe 10, 20, 30 years from now esports become a regular part of that scene, it's obviously has no choice but to make sure all the players are on the up and up.
exactly.
So you are esports resource, And
That's right.
this is Esports 101. So for any casual member out there of the audience that is thinking about it, that wants to get into it, what advice do you have for them? What maybe players, teams, or actual games should they follow that might help better acclimate them into the world of esports?
All right. So with getting into esports or any competitive gaming, first off, choose like a popular game that you enjoy. Don't make this into like a job or anything that you're gonna hate. You have to like said game in order to actually progress in it. For myself, I've actually like dipped my toes into many different games, from like first person shooters to MOBAs and fighting games. Like um as someone who's been at that point where almost pro, it's really like you really just have to, one, just work for it and keep dedicated. Two, come with realistic expectations. You don't want to just quit your job and grind 24/7 and think you'll make it that way. It's a learning curve, like depending on which game it is, whether it's either Overwatch, Street Fighter, Killer Instinct, League of Legends, or CS:GO. Like those games are the ones that are, yeah,
And we've all talked about some of the newer games as well. We
yeah,
talked beforehand about Gears of War 4 is
yeah,
making sure that they put in something for esports.
exactly.
Titanfall 2, the new Call of Duties.
Hmm.
They've all done that. And is that a good thing for esports, with so many entities now suddenly gaining an interest as far as into esports?
It's a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing. You don't want to flood the market. You've seen this with certain companies, Blizzard in particular, that kind of like they have an esports title for almost everything. Hearthstone, Heroes of the Storm, and then you also have World of Warcraft, and now you have Overwatch. It's just you want to make sure, if you're a developer or even as an individual, that you choose a game that's right for you, and also like in a developer standpoint, if you flood the market too much, that'll just either one of two things will happen. Either it'll, you know, the certain games that are popular will stay popular, but that's the thing. Like I feel that maybe it'll divide the fan bases a little bit too much, or it'll just kind of crumble in on itself.
One of the things that amuses me, and before we go, is
Yeah,
that one of the top teams right now, and actually the top rated on ESPN, is Samsung Galaxy, which,
yeah,
as you know, needs all the help it can get right now
definitely with
with PR.
exploding phones.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I hope that's not their intro, that they have
oh, yeah.
exploding phones as they come into the arena.
Oh no.
But but so people can get maybe attached to personalities, because obviously this
Definitely. Yeah.
esports will succeed, like I said, based off of its presence, by its personalities, because people will be able to connect to them,
Yeah.
because that ultimately seemed, how NASCAR and UFC be able to, and poker for that matter, was able to prosper. Who are some of the individuals or teams that people should follow, as far as is concerned, so they can get a better idea what esports is all about?
All right. So if you want to actually look into teams and organizations, Team Solo Mid is there were primarily a League of Legends organization, but they've branched out into many different games. If you want to know their personalities, that's one organization that you might want to look for. You have players like Bjergsen, who are like, they're really good mechanically, and then there's also Zero from Smash Brothers, like from Smash 4, Leffen. Like those are personalities, that you might want to follow if you like those games and you want to get a taste of what each different scene is like. There's also Evil Geniuses. You have K Brad, Justin Wong, from the fighting game scene as well. Like they give you kind of like an opportunity to see what personalities fully fleshed out can do, like as far as boosting numbers. If you want to see more skill, there's Team Solo Mid. Some of the players from Team Energy are actually they're actually pretty good if you want to look at if you look at them. Of course, that it is Shaq's or invested in that. So there's that, and then there's one more I wanted to mention. I mean, Optic Gaming, they're kind of like a grassroots, grown in from Call of Duty. Now they expanded to Halo and CS:GO. If you want to see, what it's like to be an FPS player, that's another, organization to follow. Last one would be SK Telecom T1, primarily from League of Legends. If you want to see, Faker himself, that's
And
that's
they
if
were
you want to
mentioned in
follow
the top
him.
three. They're rated in the top three by ESPN. So yes, that's
Yeah,
actually a great team to follow. One last question before I let you go.
sure.
What are your hopes for esports, and where do you think it will go?
My hopes for esports. Oh man, that's hard. All right. So hopefully esports grows to be an accepted, I wouldn't want to say like it's an actual like I believe it here. I'll say it like this, and I'm kind of paraphrasing from Weldon, who's the head coach at Team Solo Mid. You know, he mentioned that as far as gaming goes, it's more of a mental sport, whereas physical sports require mostly the physical attention and spacing in regards to plays. With gaming, I feel like it is more of a mental sport. The physical aspects, are in regards to your hands and pretty much your arms and then just using your brain. Like I feel that as long as there's everyone knows that clarification, then it can kind of move forward as an esport. And as a player, I created a group called Las Vegas KI. We have a few top players in our scene that are really good, myself included. I'm actually like decent. My hopes for personally is that by the time of next year that I'm actually sponsored by a decent org, um, and that I'm able to like provide content and everything like that. So I mean, here's hoping that it lasts like over 100 years. It's just gonna take time.
So where can they find you, as
All
far as
right.
concerned? Where can they find what you're looking for, and what this is your chance to plug. So you tell me, where can they find what Cristian Zamudio is up to?
All right. So you can follow me on Twitter at Pterodyne. That's where I'm going to be. I post a lot of different things there, personal life, tournaments, and all of that. So you can follow me there at Twitter. On YouTube, you can follow me at Samurai Chris. Twitch.tv, I stream from time to time at Samurai Chris. Um, and then I'm also on Mario Party Wars as one of their admins. So you can find me there on Facebook. Lastly, also on Facebook and Instagram, you can find me, on if you go to Samurai Chris, you can actually find me there and follow my groups, Las Vegas Gundam Club and Las Vegas KI. There you go.
Quite a list indeed. Although my list of plugs usually gets no shorter than that, as well, my friend.
Yeah.
I appreciate, Christian, you taking the time to talk to us. I'm hoping anytime you want to be back, or anytime you have
Yeah.
news that you feel you want to share on the show, both the Game Source podcast and also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos. You're more than welcome to come back at any time you choose to do so. It's been a pleasure having you on, and hopefully
Yeah.
everybody listening out there has got a better idea about the esports scene.
Oh, yeah, not a problem. Glad I could be of, assistance with that.
Oh no, you're a great help indeed. You clarified a lot of things as far as the esports genre and where it wants to go next is all about. So for Cristian Zamudio, this is Gerald Glassford from Game Source and Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to wish everyone a great day. Want to hoping everyone out there has another beautiful day in paradise. And here's
Yep.
hoping you have yourself. Yes.
Oh, I said, yep. I was going to tell everybody have a good one.
There you go. And have yourself a great day.